Holy Trinity, it's time for another Geeks with Wives and Capes. I'm your host, Casey at Bad Boy Comics, and we are your number, 10 or so comic book, sequential art, superhero podcast. How's it going, everybody? How's it going tonight? I'm joined by one beautiful co-host and one very, very funny co-host. I'll let you decide which is which. First up, let me introduce you guys to someone who hasn't been on the podcast before, but is a regular on the site. They write for us quite frequently. He is an excellent reviewer. I hope you guys check out all of the stuff. It's CK Stewart. How's it going, CK?
It's going great, especially since you said such nice things about me. And I agree. I'm a super funny co-host, and I'm super excited to have the beautiful Keith Brown of The Wages of Sin on tonight. I'm stoked. Thank you for having me on the Capes Cast.
Oh my gosh, you're already taking over the show. This is the last time you're coming on.
I've ruined everything.
I know. Thank you so much for introducing our guest tonight from his comic strip Wages of Sin and his Hound Comics. We have Keith Brown on the show tonight. How's it going, Keith?
Well, hello, guys. How you doing? I'm not sure if I would say I'm beautiful. I prefer adorable.
Well, I think you're a pretty beautiful man.
You know what? That's the nicest thing anybody said to me all day. So I'll take that. Thank you very much. Greetings from hell or Missouri, however you look at it.
It's a little of both.
This time of year can be, yes.
So, Keith, whenever we have a guest on our show, the first thing we always ask him is, tell us a little bit about your origin story. Like, what made you a geek? What got you into comic books? What made this become your life's work?
Well, it keeps me out of the bars, I suppose. But I've always I work in engineering for many years. Mechanical designer, that's my trade, and I get to be creative in that, which is kind of nice, and it fills that. But many years ago, I've always enjoyed graphic art and stuff, and even studied a little bit of it, but I never had designs. I wanted to be a serious commercial artist, and it never really took off that way. I don't know. I worked for a place for quite a while doing some t-shirt designs and stuff. But anyway, long story short, at that point this is many years ago, I hadn't really thought about cartoons that much per se, although I had done some. And about 20 years or so ago, I had an idea for a strip that I called, what did I call that? Gullible's Travels, I think is what it was. And I did up a few little mock-ups. But it was your typical two little boys, the whole talking dog thing. It wasn't breaking any new ground. I flirted with it, but I just didn't have the discipline or the drive at that time to really, do anything like that. So I got away from cartooning for many, many years, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, we had a few political shenanigans going on here in my hometown, and for some reason a cartoon just popped into my head, so I sketched it out and quickly inked it up and thought it was pretty groovy, and so I emailed it to the editor of our local newspaper, and he loved it, but he wouldn't run it because you have to understand, small town. I live in a town of 14,000 people, literally in the middle of a cornfield, and the local paper doesn't really poke fun at the politicians. So anyway, he wouldn't run it. He liked it, but he wouldn't run it. But anyway, it kind of gave me the bug. So I sat down and probably did up another half a dozen just single panel gag cartoons. I can't even really remember what they were right now, to be honest with you. But that kind of gave me the bug. I was having a lot of fun with it. So I emailed those to a newspaper in a larger town south of me, about a half hour away. It's a much larger town. Larger circulation, to the editor, just on a lark, just for fun. The guy emailed me that day back and say, hey, would you like to be our Sunday editorial cartoonist? I was like, okay. I didn't know what to think about it.
But that was a surprising phone call.
Well, yeah, he emailed me, and I hadn't really thought much about it. My wife came home from work, and I said, hey, guess what? And then I told her about it, and I got thinking, holy shit, what have I got myself into here? And what I did it was they had a Sunday edition at that time, and I did one every Sunday, and they wanted them based on local issues, in and around that town. So I did that for a little over a year or so, and it was a wonderful experience. And the editor, gentleman by the name of Bob Satin, is the guy I probably have to credit with me getting back into this, because he gave me that opportunity, and I went for it for about a year, and it was very good practice and training, and maybe learning how to craft a gag here and there. But I did that for a little over a year or so, and then he was leaving the paper, and then I decided to bow out of doing those, simply because, in smaller towns, and you guys could, even larger towns, a lot of times the topic in the news that they want you, it's the same topic. It comes around again and again a lot of times, school board this, or, a lot of times it's the same stuff. And it got a little difficult for me to do gags on the same topic where they didn't maybe start to come off mean. Do you know what I mean? At least that's the way I.
Yeah.
At least that's
it's
the way
always a fine line. Yeah, it's always a fine line when you're trying to be funny and trying not to be mean at the same time.
Yeah,
and I think like comedians like Jeff Ross really stretch that line to where are you just being a complete a-hole, and where are you making fun of someone where they're laughing along with you.
Yeah, but Ross, that's what you get. You know what you get when you get him, and he's the most diabolical.
I was using him as an extreme example.
Well, and see, a lot of these people didn't know me. I was anonymous, but it's when you're making fun of or sport of local issues, it can come off very personal to people. And anyway,
now you're from a very let's say this. I'm from a very blue state, and you're from a very red state. Did you feel like you had to kind of skirt around that stuff when you are taking these political stances, or you just go straight for it?
No, I didn't. But I could share an interesting story with you if you like.
Oh, please, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Hold on, let me start the fire. Let me sit back a little bit. Let me stretch it out. All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, in this town, that's where they hold our annual state fair. And I had done, actually, I got a couple instances that I could share with you. They do the state fair every year, and I did a cartoon about, state fair essentially, as you guys know how they are, it's a farm and livestock show, essentially, and of course they have all the stuff around it. And I had done a cartoon about, it was titled Miss Missouri, and it was these cows in a beauty pageant. And the one that won, I made fun of my own county in the sash they wore, Saline County, and then I had a couple cows with other county names. But anyway, long story short, the cow that won was very pretty, had an extra large udder and all this kind of stuff. And then one of the cows off to the side was saying, well, she's had work done. And it was probably fairly hacky, whatever, I don't know. But I wasn't thinking in terms, that thing ran on the Sunday morning, the very morning after they held the Miss Missouri pageant at the fair.
Perfect timing. I bet the editor loved that. Oh man, I bet he loved that.
Actually, I didn't know. I never thought. I didn't run it. I just did something about the fair, turned it in. He ran it the next morning. We had no inklings or thoughts whatsoever that people would tie it into the Miss Missouri contest the night before. And boy, were they pissed off, because they thought I was making fun of the Miss Missouri pageant. Well, when you think about it,
two things you don't make fun of Missouri, and cows and pageantry.
Well, keep in mind it was the Miss Missouri pageant, right?
Yeah, they walked right into that one, Keith. I gotta say.
I guess, but the thing about it is when I was doing that the whole Miss Missouri pageant, I didn't even know they were doing it there, guys. I had no idea. I don't live over there. I mean, I was thinking state fair and cattle, and you show your livestock. That's where my mind was at. Anyway, they were pretty pissed off. So that's the only cartoon that I've ever done that I wrote. The editor asked me to write a little thing for the paper explaining to them that, look, that was never my intention. That was never in my mind, anything like that. So, and which is true, that I wasn't making fun of them. I didn't even know they were doing it that night, you know?
I can just
So,
imagine like the fan letter, "Dear Mr. Brown,
oh,
how dare
that's it.
you
That's it. Yeah,
ruin the sanctity of
that's
our
a,
Miss Missouri pageant
Look,
with your cows."
that's
I
ex-
don't know that. Yeah,
did,
I don't know that Casey has the best frame of reference, but pageant culture is serious business down here.
well, it's serious
And
business everywhere.
My only frame of reference is that show that's on like the Learning Channel or whatever. That's my only frame of reference of pageantry.
No,
So
pageants are like
I know
it's like a big business, but
when
Well,
you're
and
injecting
yeah,
kids with pixie sticks, it must be pretty serious.
well, and keep it. Yeah, and you're right. They do take it serious, but keep in mind, I guess I was aware they do a Miss Missouri pageant, but I had no idea that they were doing it. I don't keep up with it, right? So
Oh yeah, there's
that
no way. Like
that
it was
was
just
not in.
pure happenstance.
It was happenstance, and that's just happened to be when it ran. So they completely took it the wrong way. So I wrote up a little thing that Bob put in the paper explaining, you look, here's the deal, this blah blah blah, and they were like, oh, okay, all right. They accepted my, I guess, apology. I didn't apologize for the cartoon, but I apologized that they took it in that I was making fun of them. So that one ruffled a few feathers, but the worst one ever is every year they do an NRA banquet over there at the fairgrounds. And I had done up a cartoon showing a guy standing at a podium. He's got bandolero and pistols and assault with the whole thing, and trucker hat and sideburns and the whole thing. And he's standing at a podium saying, Friends of the NRA, which was Friends of the NRA banquet, saying our next order of business is to pick a new boogeyman for the next presidential election cycle, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. And wow, man, the backlash from that, you guys, was incredible. And I'm still proud of that cartoon. And
Was Charlton Heston still alive or
no, Charlton Heston was dead, but that did prompt a few early Wages strips about that. They're way back in the archives. But what was weird about that was a lot of the people who were ticked off were mad at me because I used the Friends of the NRA instead of just the NRA. The Friends of the NRA, that is their youth shooting sports organization. And they were upset that I made fun of them because they're 503c1 charity, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Well, I have a lot of friends at work that go to this, and that's what it is, but they have people there. You have to be a member of the NRA to go, and they have people there ready to sign people up to the NRA and all that kind of stuff. I ended up having an hour-long conversation with the Missouri chapter president about that. Because he was upset, but I got him to admit that was purely a technical distinction for a charity thing. It's basically still the NRA, and so I said, well, I'll admit I didn't make a technical distinction if you'll admit that the distinction's purely technical. And the weird thing was, you guys, there was a guy called my work. See, here's the thing, too, you got to understand. My cartoons, even the ones I do, I keep them separate from my workplace. It's not that people don't know or anything, but I don't go hang them up on the bulletin board or anything like that. And I didn't do it with this one either.
Every piece of thing I've written is strewn across my workplace.
Well, you have to understand where I work, and a lot of the equipment that we manufacture is used in the manufacturing of firearms.
Oh no, Keith, I was just saying I'm a raging narcissist, so that's just part of my deal.
Well, I have it a little bit, but well, anyway, you have to understand too. Just as we go into this, I'm not an anti-gun person. Second Amendment's a good thing and everything. I am anti-hysterical fool when it comes to guns. To me, it's like, hey, just take it down a notch. But the NRA, to me, I'll make fun of them the day I die because they're a business, and they're in the business of keeping shit stirred up. And so I'm going to make fun of them. But anyway, I actually had a guy call my work and talk to my boss. And my boss come bebopping out one day. Hey, Brownie, let me see this cartoon. Everybody's like, what? So anyway, I showed it to him. He just kind of looked at it and chuckled. But I got to tell you guys, there was about a week, if you would have seen the comments on the website and everything, there was about a week, you guys, that I was paranoid as shit. And of all the cartoons I've done over the past 5 years or so, that one raised the most ruckus simply because I had the nerve to make fun of the NRA. And I've done it many times since then, too. But they ran it in that newspaper. And so that one really raised kind of a kerfuffle, and I'm kind of proud of that. But I thought it was a little over the line for guys to be calling my day job, you know. And
I'm not gonna like you. I'm kind of hoping that someone posts this on an NRA website because that would be really good for us.
Post what? This interview?
This interview.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, that's fine too. I mean, you know, people got to understand this has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the Second Amendment or anything else. It has to do with it's just a massive lobbying organization, and it's a business, and they're in the business of stirring the hornet's nest. And you know, guns aren't going anywhere. I mean, that barn door's been open for a long time. But you mark my words, I don't know if it's going to be, you know, whoever the next Democratic presidential, they're going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to guns. And they're coming, by the way, still waiting for Obama to come take my guns. He hasn't knocked on my door yet.
Oh, he didn't take yours?
No, he hasn't been there yet.
Last week. He came by.
Did he come get yours? Okay.
Yeah, I only had a Nerf gun, but he still took it.
Well, I'd just let him have mine. Of course, you know. Anyway, the point being is, when people are hysterical about that crap, I have to make fun of it. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with somebody's right to own a gun or a firearm or anything like that. That's fine. And sadly, the majority of people that do are calm, respectful people, you know.
I think anytime people are hysterical about anything, you have to make fun of it.
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
There's nothing worth the amount of energy you're putting into this that you are.
You know, it's kind of like politics or anything else, and it's interesting. You know, if I make any sort of sport, you know, against the right, I'm some sort of raging liberal. You know, and the thing is, there's some stuff on the extreme left that drives me nuts too, but it's just not quite as batshit crazy. And personally, when it comes to politics, my personal thoughts are, you know, it's like driving a car. You're going down the road. Are you better off in the left ditch or the right ditch? Neither. You know, we're all better off. You know, I think the pendulum's swinging. You know, we seem to be governed by extremes now, and I think we would all be better off if we just took a breath and stepped back and said, "Wow, maybe we all need to get back to the middle here, a little bit more give and take, and maybe we'd all be a little better off." But I do like to make fun of the NRA because they deserve it.
Yeah, none of it's going to matter when that big earthquake hits anyway, so let's just all smoke some weed and just hang out.
Are you ready? Are you ready for Dwayne Johnson to come save you from the earthquake, Casey?
He ain't coming saving me. I'm not that important. I'm way too white for him anyways.
I smell what the Rock is cooking.
What's happening?
So, anyway, that was kind of my editorial career with that newspaper. It was a wonderful experience, and I did that for a little over a year, and I hadn't had any designs, you guys, on doing a strip. And then this website, which naturally is defunct now, had a contest several years ago, and so I put together some of my single panel stuff, and you could enter like 10 of them, so I entered those in, and there was still time to enter stuff, and for some reason, I don't know why, you guys, I was flicking through some of those old editorials I did, and I did one. Man, it was your basic hack, lawyer in hell joke, something about a heat wave and blah blah blah, but I had done the devil character with a little assistant, a little sidekick, and I just happened to cross that old editorial, and then all of a sudden it just clicked, bam. What if I did something kind of around that, you know? And so that's how it was born, and I put together 10 concept strips, which, by the way, if people go to my Facebook page here recently, I posted some of those original 10 so they can see what the original concepts were. Anyway, I entered those in that
Spit that out.
contest.
What's the Facebook page? Facebook page?
Actually, if they just type wages of sin, the wages of sin in the address bar, they'll dump on it. It's just like me in a band and something else. It's really easy to find on Facebook. Just facebook.com/the wages of sin, I guess. But I just posted a new one tonight. But if they scroll down through my timeline, they can see some of the really. I've been posting some of the original 10 that I did for the contest. They're in there somewhere. And but anyway, I made it through my single panel stuff on that contest. I got bumped out about halfway through, but with this concept, I made it through all the way through the 9th round. I think I got bumped out right before the end. And so it's like, oh, okay. And I just kind of got to thinking, wow, I kind of went a lot farther than I expected with that. So I just chewed on it for a while, and then I don't know. One day, I just was out of ideas and out of this and out of that, and I just went back and was looking at some of that, and I said, I'm going to make a really concerted effort to try to do something with this concept. So I sat down and just started busting them out, and it's interesting now. I just completed my 506th strip tonight, and it's interesting because I can look back and remember that it seemed like just coming up with the first 10 seemed daunting, and here I am 3 books later and 506 strips later, but I entered it into, when I decided to really get something going with it, I entered it into that contest again, and that year I won Best Strip in the Cartoonist Studio contest. Another guy named Tyson Cole won the overall contest with his single panel, which is, I forgot the name, it was very good stuff, but I won the strip category, so that was kind of nice.
Tyson Cole.
Do you know Tyson?
No, I've never heard of him.
Oh, okay. He's a good single panel cartoonist, but anyway, I won the strip category, and that was kind of nice. And of course, even then, when I go back a few years and look at the ones I was doing at that time, it's almost hard to the drawing, the evolution. If anybody goes and visits this Facebook, you can really see the evolution of how the character started out and then where they're at now. I mean, just the overall look at the strip has evolved, if you will. I'm pretty happy and comfortable with it now. I mean, at first it was difficult to get the continuity, and get everything drawn the same and right and everything, and just over time it's kind of started to come together, I guess. But that's how I got into that, man. And we just dropped my 3rd book collection with Hound Comics, and this book is about twice as big as Wages Volume 1 and 2, meaning there's over 240 strips and like 80 pages. So it's a pretty decent sized little coffee table book, I would say. And Brim from Hound Comics, I guess, ran across him one day. I'd never heard of them prior to this, and he just got a hold of me and says, "Hey, would you like to try to do something?" I was like, "Sure, okay."
Because it's a perfect fit for their brand. I mean, for their brand, it fits right.
Yeah, and so I guess I did the lighter side, and so that was a pretty decent marriage, And so here we go, 3 books later, 4 books counting my children's book, but just released Wages Volume 3. As I like to say, making liberals laugh and conservatives cringe. Look out, folks, it's the wages of sin.
Oh, that's quite the tagline, my friend.
That's my tagline. So that's kind of how I got into it, guys. And I've slowed down a little bit over the past month or so.
I was gonna say, what's your schedule? I mean, do you just put them out whenever you feel like it, or do you have a set like I try to do every week, or every 2 weeks?
For the past 2 years or so, I averaged a strip every other day.
Wow.
And so that was about that. Like I say, in the past 2 years or so, I've cranked out about 500, a little over 500. And so I set
So
schedule.
that doesn't sound like a coffee table book. That sounds like a Bible.
Well, keep in mind though, this third book, it doesn't have all 500 strips, but it has almost half of those. So I mean, there's 3 different volumes. There's volume 1, volume 2, and then volume 3. But volume 3 has almost half of the strips that I've ever done since I've been doing this. So it's about twice the page count and twice the strip count as the other 2 books. So it's considerably more.
Yeah, you may not be able to take that thing in an elevator.
Yeah, you can. It's not that big. It's a perfectly portable.
Poor attempts of trying to be funny. Poor attempts.
Well, there are ebooks available too of all this. That can, I think they have those at Amused. They can find all that through a link on my website. I have a tab for books that will take folks to the links that have the books on it.
And what's the website? What's your website name?
thewagesofsin.net.
Perfect. So, CK, did you have any questions for Keith?
No, I just want to say that I think that the story about the pageant comic is probably the best thing, and the cow pageant, obviously, not people pageant, is probably one of the funniest things that I've heard in a long time. That's amazing, and I can imagine that happening in my town, and it would be an absolute uproar. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
I didn't have to go through anything, and I'd be happy to send it to you if you'd like to see it, or I still have it.
That would be great. That cracks me up. Because again, as somebody from a relatively small town in the South, I feel like I probably have a better frame of reference for that than Casey does. But yeah, I was super excited to have the chance to check out your work this week. Very funny. As like a big time, like major league raging liberal, I feel like. I feel like I sympathize with all those jokes.
I can't believe it.
I know, super surprising, right? But to be fair to Republicans, we are generally the home of people who don't believe in vaccinating their children. So, Republican Party, you've got one up on us. Thank you. Please keep vaccinating your kids, please. But yeah, your comics are great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Keith, do you have a vaccination comic?
Do I what?
Do you have a vaccination strip?
You know what?
Got an idea for you.
I don't. I'm not sure if I've done one about him getting his shots or not. That's a
guest appearance by Jenna McCarthy.
Well, you know what? That would probably be a good one if it's in. It's interesting. A lot of times when I get an idea or get a gag, I usually try to I'll jot down a little thing, and I usually try to get them out fairly quick while they're still in the ethos. I think tonight's isn't that. I don't even remember what it's about. I don't even know if it's that funny. But the last one I did was about.
I don't expect you to, Keith. When you put out one every other day, Jesus Christ! I don't know how you even how your hands still work. Like, how do you draw that?
It's interesting. I mean, I've got.
I imagine you just like talking to your wife and just drawing at the same time. Wait, what? Yeah, we're going out to Morton's tonight. Oh, okay, we're good. All right, let's do it. Okay, I'm almost done with this trip. Just got 500 more. I should have them done in a couple hours. So no worries. Let's just keep it going.
That's actually fairly close, except that the secret to our happy marriage is she has a TV in the front room and I have one in the back room. And so we're not
2 TiVos and square footage.
That's right. We don't force each other to watch. But she always comes and peeks around the door, see what I'm drawing, because I have a thing. I don't like to be watched while I'm drawing, so she has to wait till I post it. And so we always.
I have that rule too, but it's not for drawing.
We have a little running gag for that too. I think the last topical one I did was about the Duggars. Yeah, that was the last.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
Those Duggars.
Ago.
We all knew there was something wrong with that family, right? We're like, ooh, 19 kids.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, I guess, when you think from a religious standpoint, is I didn't set out with this. The reason I chose, the idea just kind of happened, but the reason I was attracted to the hell part of it was because of what I consider the mystical nature of it. it would allow me to introduce any. I have basically 4 characters: the Devil, Jinx, Spider, and Skull. It's real simple, and but it allows me, in my opinion, that I can introduce any character or scenario that I like. I can just let them come in, make their gag go away. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. But there didn't need to be any sort of explanation or continuity of any of that, simply because of it's hell. Who knows what's going to go on there, right? And who's to say what's hell? It could be what we're living right now. And it's interesting, some of the people that take things very literally. But the point being, I never set out. This was never a vehicle for me to make fun of religion. I will occasionally do that, have fun with it, or if people were being knuckleheads about it or trying to keep people down, I'll make fun of them. But that was never the intent was never to solely deride religion or anything. But if they're acting like weenies, I'll call them out, and or the terrorists or any of that kind of stuff, the Muslim stuff. Yeah, I'll make fun of it. But it's important for people to know that the crux of the genesis wasn't there. I've seen strips out there like that, you guys, that are very vicious and really, really mean-spirited toward that. And I really didn't want to go that route. I wanted to try to walk a fine line between snark and maybe people getting it. I have a lot of people that follow it that are actually religious, and they get a kick out of it. So
you mentioned reading other strips. Like it's something I intentionally don't do.
Oh,
like,
I don't do it. I really don't do it much. I've seen other strips.
Oh, okay.
But I have to be honest.
Like, do you go out and search that stuff out just so
No,
you're not like
no,
maybe
no,
hitting
no.
on something similar? Or you just avoid that.
I avoid it completely. As a matter of fact, there was another guy with another strip where we both did a gag about Adam having a belly button. And I think I said, yeah, man, I already did that. When he came back, I said, no, I did that one. And I was like, well, son of a bitch, he did. So we weren't fighting or anything. It was just kind of one of those things. And it happens more than you think. Maybe it's happened to you. Sometimes I'm aware of a lot of other stuff. I'm aware of a lot of my compatriots and contemporaries and stuff, but I purposely don't study it a lot because I am scared to death that I'll inadvertently lift a gag, or probably more to the point, I look at their stuff and go, "Geez, I suck."
That's a lot of what I do.
And it's
who would pay me to do this? Like who's?
Yeah, well, ain't nobody paying me to do it, But anyway, I'm aware of a lot of stuff. I don't think I'm quite as worried about it now as I've kind of hit my stride. In terms of drawing this and developing its voice and its look and for whatever it's supposed to be. But that was something that, I see a lot of stuff, and I'm friends with quite a few guys on Facebook, but I don't study it a whole lot. Simply because of that, I'm more afraid I'll lift a gag or something. And so anyway, the weird thing is I've been staring at this for a couple years now, and it's kind of, I think in terms of this cartoon. So like stopping and trying to come up with something else, I don't have any other ideas in my head. And I had the Syndicate editor talk to me about it, who liked the humor and the writing, but said they could never sell it. They could never sell anything based on hell or anything like that. But if I ever come up with something else to let her know, I'm like, I will. But nothing else has popped in my head because I actually think in these terms now.
Just change them to squirrels.
Talking animals, yeah, okay.
Change them to woodland creatures. And set in some kind of mystical land where like celebrities can get lost in like a vortex and just show up randomly.
Yeah.
Maybe you can skirt around that.
I don't know, I'm sorry, go ahead, CK.
I was just going to say they could just be exceptionally pop culture savvy squirrels. That's a big thing right now. Very
savvy squirrels?
Anachronistically savvy woodland animals. Been a very popular trend with the kids' films.
It sounds like Bob the Squirrel to me. There's already a strip out there, a really, really good single panel strip called Bob the Squirrel. That it's very difficult to find anything that hasn't been done, you know, to some degree. I mean, this is not the only cartoon strip that's based in hell, as far as I know, but it seems like the ones I've seen have been considerably darker or maybe more mean-spirited. So I thought, well, let's try to keep. I just, you know, weird thing is that's why it's interesting to talk to guys like you or people that because I have no idea how it's perceived by other people. You know, I'm in this little bubble, and I live on likes, man. And if I get a 10% like ratio, I think I'm doing pretty good. And if somebody shares one, I'm like, wow, you know. But that's about all I know. That's my whole barometer on these things. So that's why it's a pleasure to talk to folks like you, maybe that have seen it, that can, you know, offer some insight. I'm hearing a cat fight outside. I hope it's my cat.
They heard us talking about the NRA.
I
They're
guess.
pissed.
So, you know, I just hope that, you know, as long as guys like you, if you enjoy it and you see what I'm going for, I guess I've done what I set out to do, you know.
Well, Keith, I hate to break your heart, but I hated it. I just couldn't. I'm just kidding. No, it's a fantastic thing, and I love that it's topical, and I love that you put so much work into it, and you put it out every other day. It's just so.
Well, that's an average. That's an average.
I know, but still, Keith, like a weekly is crazy to me, and the fact that you like keep up with it, and you're topical, and you're funny, and you're consistently funny, and I think that's a lot. That's a lot that matters, and you're putting yourself out there as much as possible. And I really think that's all you can do and ask for is just to create your art and make a few people laugh, and then that's all you can really ask for. And I think you're succeeding in that.
Yeah, I'm like everybody else, you know. I'm trying to build an audience, and which, by the way, anybody listening, I got 1,883 Facebook likes, and I'm shooting for the big 2,000. So if anybody out there can go like my Facebook page, it would really make my day when they hear this. But, you know, I'm like everybody else in the creative endeavors, you know. I'm trying to build an audience and hoping maybe somebody will run across this someday and go, wow, we need to animate that for Comedy Central or Adult Swim or something. You know, I have the same dreams and aspirations as everybody else, but I'm kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere, so it's kind of difficult to actually go talk and meet people. I haven't even been to a Comic-Con yet, so that's one of the reasons why I was happy to hook up with the Hound people, the guys at Hound, Brim and those guys, so they could represent it at some of the larger shows and stuff, because I'm just not in a position to attend those. So I'm kind of in a little bubble.
I would recommend something to you. It's called Comic Fix. I don't know if you may be familiar with it, but it works like a Netflix of comics, and you can totally just upload your stuff on there, and then it's kind of like goes out into like their subscriber base.
Oh yeah. You know what? I can tell you what, Casey. I've been on some of those other things before. There's so many different platforms and stuff, and I gotta be honest with you. I got to where I could not remember and manage all of them.
I know, that's the thing with podcasts. That's what we have with podcasts now. There's so many podcast channels. I'm like, I don't know. Are we on Stitcher? Are we on Spotify? I don't fucking know.
So I figured, well, you know, I got my website, is, you know, cheesy and simple as it is, and then I got Facebook, and actually, what's been a pretty good thing for me is Twitter. It seemed to be doing pretty good, getting some more followers with that. They don't necessarily, from what I could tell, go like the Facebook page so much, but I'm kind of getting a little bit of a following on Twitter too. I think I'm hoping maybe I'm just getting ready to bust out a little bit and reach an audience. You know, it's probably an acquired taste, maybe an acquired sense of humor, I suspect. I don't know if it's for everybody, but then what is? You know, I mean, people like it.
No,
or
I would describe it like this. It's like a clip of South Park, but without the farts and cursing, but it's like a clip. It's like a 10-second clip. You know what I mean?
You know, so it's interesting. You know, I'm glad you said that, because actually, and don't get me, I love South Park, but the last thing I want to try to, you know, I could, but they've already done all that. You know, they've done all that stuff. They can get away.
Simpsons did it first.
Yeah, that's true. But
A
I'm
whole
glad.
episode about that.
I envision these if I was ever lucky enough to get these picked up to do some sort of animation or something. I wouldn't envision this strip as a whole half-hour show like a South Park, but more like a little interstitial palate cleanser, little strip within a something, because the way I write and the way these are set up to just be a setup punchline, set up punchline, and that's the way my mind works with these. So I don't really see. Now it's not to say I could never do that, a long form, but I would have no idea how to write something like that because that's just not how my brain works.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Me and CK are gonna set up a sketch style show, and then we'll use your cartoon, kind of like the Spy vs. Spy, like on Mad TV, because that was really the best part of the show, anyways. Like the only reason anybody watched Mad TV was for the Spy vs. Spy cartoon.
That's
So
true.
I'm willing to present some crappy improv so that you can present your Wages of Sin cartoon.
Okay. Well, that's
so-
exactly the way I see it. Is Spy versus Spy is a great example. It's just an interstitial little palate cleanser between commercial breaks or something. That's the way I envision my head if something like that ever happened. Other than that, I'm just trying to sell some books. They do make a great gift. So if anybody listening has some conservative in the family that they want to poke in the ribs, give them one of these.
Yep, there's nothing like saying Happy 4th of July, like a liberal comic strip.
I guess you could say it's liberal. I guess in social issues, I'm a fairly liberal guy.
Oh, I know. I'm just sorry. I work on sound bites.
Oh, I hear you. That's cool.
I come from radio. It's a terrible habit, I know. Okay, so Keith, why don't you give us the website one more time and where we can find all your stuff and where we can buy your books and where we can support you, so that way everybody listening knows can go hit up your Facebook and all that stuff.
Well,
the deets, my friend.
The deets. Wow, is that how you kids are saying it now? Okay.
Kids. I wish I was a kid. Oh, those
were
the days.
What are you, 30?
31, yeah, 31.
Oh, jeez, your prostate's still small.
We're not old. We're
Just
not
barely.
old, Casey.
I am, though. I'm 52, so I'm old enough to be your brother. Let's see. Okay. How'd they want? Okay. Sorry about that. I just got somebody just liked my Facebook page. By the way, are we live?
We are. We are
Yeah.
live.
Oh, we are live. Wow, I didn't know. Okay. Oh,
sorry.
Well,
We're supposed to disclose that at the beginning.
And that
Did I not
was
say that.
that person was me. So don't say their name, because.
Oh, was that you? Was that you?
Yeah, that person was me.
Okay, I see. I won't say your name, but
Okay.
what I will do is I will send you a message and include that cartoon we were talking about. Okay.
Oh, thank you. That would be great.
Well, thank you for liking my page. Now, back to that. If for anybody listening, I wasn't sure if this was going to be broadcast later or not. My website is thewagesofsin.net, and that's going to have a bunch of the latest cartoons that you'll find in the latest book. If they go to the top right corner of my website, they'll see they can hook up with my social media stuff, my Twitter, Facebook. There's icons up there. It'll take you right to it. I'm with houndcomics.com. And I also have a tab on my website, a books tab. If they click on that, it takes you to the books page and gives you links that'll take you right to the page in Hound Comics where they can get a book. And we haven't touched on my children's book, have we? Do we got time for that?
Yeah. Spit it out. What I remember. Let me try to get the title right. I'm totally gonna butcher it, so I apologize, Keith. Spooky, creepy time Halloween fun hour.
Absolutely not.
Not even close, right? Damn.
No, actually, it's, and the reason I like to bring up that children's book is so people know that while the cartoons might be a little for the grown-ups in terms of the references and stuff like, it's not that kids couldn't read these cartoons, they just might not get a lot of the references. But the children's book is called, it's an extra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween.
Not even close. I got
Which, by the-
Halloween right.
Yeah, you did get Halloween right, and there is a Facebook page for that too. But also on the book page on my site, and that book is carried through Hound as well. And I'm really, really proud of that book, you guys. I've written several children's stories, but that's the only one right now that's actually illustrated and ready to go. And it's a very fun. we've run that through the school system here in my town. My dad's a foster grandparent, and I've sold a lot here locally, and kids absolutely love it. It's a wonderful rhyming Halloween romp, and the title is like a song chorus. It repeats throughout the book. So as they go through, the kids like to start saying it along as they read the book. It's about a little pirate and his creepy Halloween night, and will he get home okay, and all that kind of fun stuff. There's even some fun maze puzzles in the back. I do have a Facebook page for that, but that is a long title. So if they just go again to thewagesofsin.net, click on the books tab, and it's included on there too. So just so folks know, I have that out there. That's a very I'm really proud of that little guy, and I hope maybe someday it'll become to Halloween what Rudolph is to Christmas. So if anybody has youngsters that are still trick-or-treating age, where they still really get into it, I would say from kindergarten on, some kids might need a little help reading it, but they really enjoy it, and I'm really proud of that project.
So what's that book about? Just give us the basic.
The Halloween book.
The Halloween.
It's about a little trick-or-treater that goes out, and he starts hearing some creepy noises, and all of a sudden there's something following him, and he's not sure what it is, so he makes a mad dash to try to get back home. So that's it in the crux. But the opening stanza is, "When the wind blows cold and the moon is full, the werewolves howl and the vampires drool. Your heart is filled with terror as you hear yourself scream. It's an extra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween. Hear the flitty flutter of a squeaky little bat, and the haunting, lonely cries of an eerie black cat. A silent fog is rising where the tombstones lean. It's an extra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween." And then it goes on from there and there. Actually, it's a song in my head. That's how I wrote it many years ago. And but it's a lot of fun. Kids like it, and they like it when the title rolls around again, and they all like to say it along. So it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun for kids, and I think grown-ups will have a lot of fun sharing that with their kids, especially when they're still at that small age where they like to dress up and go trick-or-treating. And it's not overly frightening. It's just fun. Hello?
Casey? Was it too fun for Casey?
I don't know.
It was too fun for me. That sounds super cute, but I'm also a sucker for children's works. I worked in a border books for about 6 months. Yeah, it was my dream job. I love books. And I think I was the only person that volunteered to actually do cleanup in the children's section. And part of it was just because I was a sucker for all of the new children's titles.
Well, that like I say, I only read those are like the first two stanzas from memory, but maybe you can kind of get the gist of it. And also in the back, there's some maze puzzles that I did that the kids can do, and it's a lot of fun. And like I say, that's actually a song in my head. I've never considered doing a Kickstarter campaign for anything before, but I've actually bounced around the idea of maybe trying to do something put together and have that professionally turned into a song, because that's actually the way that I hear it in my head. And it's probably difficult to tell by the cheesy way I just rattled off a few stanzas. But what I envision in my head is like,
oh my God, did I miss Keith singing? Damn it!
No, I did not sing. I did not sing.
My internet dropped out. Sorry, guys.
I was just we're talking about the kids' book.
Yeah, I was just telling CK how it started as a song in my head, and someday I'd actually like to turn it into an official song. And in the song, there'd be a chorus of children saying the phrase, "It's an extra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween." It's fun for kids to say. It rolls off the tongue. And actually, truth be known, the original title was it's an ultra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween. But when I got to sitting down to do the illustrations and actually come up with something at the last minute, I decided, a lot of kids that age might not know what ultra means. And if grown-ups have to explain that, it might, I don't know, it might lose a little something. So fortunately...
Now I think it reads Ultron, so
yeah.
So you totally avoided that mistake.
Fortunately, I was lucky that extra had the same number of syllables, so it dropped right in the meter and the rhyme and the tempo, and it basically meant the same thing. So I did a last minute change, but for 14, 15 years up until the time I did it, it was always, it's an ultra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween. And I still sometimes forget and say that. But I changed the title to it's an extra spooky, heebie-jeebie, creepy Halloween. And that could be a mouthful sometimes. But I can say that unequivocally that the kids that I've shared it with have enjoyed it immensely. And so my hope is that someday down the road that'll build a bigger audience, and who knows, maybe someday really catch on. That's kind of my dream. Actually, I have, the comic strip is a labor of love, and it's kind of an acquired taste, but I really have a lot of hopes that that's the one title of all the things that I've done cartoon-wise, and even some of the other stories and stuff. For some reason, that one I feel has the most potential if I can just get it out in front of enough people. And there you go.
Awesome. So once again, where can we find everything? Where can we find you? I just want to make sure everybody gets that as much as possible, because I think your art and your stories and your strips need to be shared with the world, especially the children's book. It's a tremendous idea, and there's not enough good Halloween songs and stories out there. So I think
that's kind of how I thought, and so that's that's kind of the way I looked at it. So I thought maybe I'll fill a niche. But people want to get a hold of me, again, they can go to thewagesofsin.net, which is my website. Top right corner will get you to any of my social media, Facebook, Twitter. You can type in The Wages of Sin on Facebook, and you'll find it there too. It's not hard to find. And then again, I'm with houndcomics.com, and all of my current projects, if anybody's looking to purchase. By the way, these are all available in print, full color print, or ebooks. They can get those there too. And yeah, I'm kind of out there. I hang out on Facebook a lot, and if anybody at all wants to, I love it when people take the time to comment on something, good, bad, or indifferent, and I always like to respond. And I'm very very easy to find, and more than willing to chat with folks. Anybody that ever wants to hit me up and say hi, feel free. I enjoy it. It makes me know that somebody out there seeing something. Whether they like it, sometimes they don't, and they let me know about it. But that's okay too.
Well, thank you so much, Keith, for coming on. We're going to talk about the comics we read this week. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to sit on and chat, or if you want to go. I know it's getting late where you are, so I don't want to keep you on for too much longer.
Yeah,
I
think I'm going to have to hang out. I'm going to have to bounce, I think, because I think I got an animal situation outside. But Casey and CK, I want to say thank you very much, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again down the road. I appreciate you having me on your podcast at Geeks with Wives.
Thank you so much, Keith. And once again, guys, it's wagesofsin.net. Check that out. Go buy Keith's books. Support him. Make him rich. Let's do it, guys. Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, CK. You guys have a great night.
You too.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right, CK. So since I've been doing all the talking, why don't you tell us what you've been reading this week? What's your week in Geek been like?
Yeah, good times. Coincidentally, I've also been reading a comic about very pop culture savvy squirrels. Because this week I read The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl #6, super fave. I'm so behind on everything, but so many things that I like came back this week finally. Gotham Academy 7. If you're not reading Gotham Academy, I don't know. I don't like you. On some level, that's a really bad choice for you to be making. Please read it. The first trade paperback should be out. in the next couple of months, and it's really good.
It's such an unusual book for DC. I don't feel like they have anything else like it, because it is like kind of like a kid's book, but not really, but kinda.
Yeah, it's
like Lumberjanes, but in the Gotham
it
universe.
is. It's like Gotham City Lumberjanes, which I think
that's
is
a much better name than Gotham Academy.
Gotham City Lumberjanes, featuring Damian Wayne, which I think is part of what I like about it, because
I love the art so much. Like, that thing is like just primed to be a cartoon.
It is. It would be such a great animated series, and I think that it's a really smart decision on DC's part. I feel like, and to be fair, I'll be totally upfront about this. I'm not super familiar with a lot of things that DC's done in the last few years. I'm generally a Marvel
Doesn't
person.
matter. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter
like,
anymore.
I'm upfront about that. Yeah, that's right. Everything has changed. Unfortunately, the things I knew the most about were all of the Crisis events, and now none of those matter. Fantastic. But yeah, I think that books like Gotham Academy and even the new, I guess kind of new, Batgirl, starting maybe around issue 30 or so with Cameron Stewart, I think those indicate that they're like aware that there's a really big demographic shift happening in audiences that we're like actually starting to acknowledge are interested in comics. And that they're like, we want to put out books that make it clear that we're a publisher that wants you to be here. Like, we want you to be a part of that. I feel like Gotham Academy, if you were going to compare it to anything on the Marvel side, it would probably be sort of totally similar to Miss Marvel, same with Batgirl. And I think DC is like, we want those people to come here too. Like, we want to have our own like Miss Marvel movement.
Do you think though that they're like, oh, we need some more kids reading books. We need to gear books to our kids. But I still go into the comic book store and near a kid in sight. Like, it's like a barren wasteland of children, but it's just a bunch of 30-year-old like overweight men. Like your typical.
Your typical, yeah.
I was in a comic book store in the Bay Area the other day, because I live in like the Central Valley. I'm talking about California. Nobody knows what I'm talking about unless you live in California. But I was in a San Francisco comic book compared to like a Podunk Town comic book store.
Yeah.
And in the Podunk Town comic book store that I go to every week, it's just nothing but males and it's just a typical comic book, like your typical stereotypical comic book fair guy. But then I go to this, how terrible I am. I go to the San Francisco one, and I'm the only one there. It's this little tiny hole in the wall. It's the only one there on a Wednesday, by the way, which I thought was super weird. I was like, man, I don't know how this guy stays in business. But I go walk in there, and then I saw a girl walk in, and I about had a heart attack. I was just like, oh my god, like this is like, it's so nice to see, and it's like I just wish, like I want to see that with children now. I just don't feel like enough kids are buying comic books. Like when I die, who's gonna be there to pick up the pieces? You know what I mean? Like. There's always like a new generation around. I just don't feel like that new generation exists when it comes to the comic book stuff. And maybe they're reading digitally, and I'm just an old man. That's why.
I think that might be part of it. I think that, like you said, the culture around actual physical comic book locations is still like a pretty specific culture. And for the shops that are in my area, for the most part, like I love the staff there. The comic shop that's closest to me, like right downtown, is an amazing shop. The staffer is super helpful, always knowledgeable, always trying to like recommend stuff to me that's in the vein of like Miss Marvel or Spider-Gwen or Batgirl, instead of like, well, you might like but he's also trying to push things on me. Not push, I guess it's a terrible thing to say, but he's also like, well, you might like Dr. Fate, or like if you're like picking up the new Midnighter, you might like Constantine. As opposed to, I've heard great things. I have not picked it up yet. But as opposed to like, well, you might like this book because it's ladies. It's like, we're going to give you the lady versions of these comics because those are the kinds of comics that you'd like. Because I go into shop and everybody thinks I'm a girl, for the record. It's like, if these are the kinds of books that you like, then here are other books that are similar to that. And I think that's kind of what books like Gotham Academy and the newer issues of Batgirl kind of indicate from DC. Like, I don't know that they necessarily are saying to themselves, like, here's a new group of people who are just starting to read. I think they're saying to themselves, like, there's a group of people that are already reading their comics, but they're also, like, when they're going in and they're picking up like Catwoman or Harley Quinn or the Justice League, they're also picking up stuff like Lumberjanes, or they're picking up Adventure Time, and like, why don't we give them a book like that so that they can keep buying more of our things, or so that parents can come into a shop and actually have something to look at and say, like, while I'm picking up my Constantine and my Midnighter, which I don't know that I want to show my kids, like I can also pick up Gotham Academy, and like that's a book that my child can read. Like, is Gotham Academy a little bit spooky? Yeah, but you can give a kid Gotham Academy. You maybe can't give a kid like Deadpool. And I think, and I know, maybe some kids, maybe more mature young
My
readers.
daughter's fond of My Little Pony. I don't know why. But I mean, whenever I take her to the comic store, I'm just like, number one, it's just to shut her up, basically. But I'm just like, go pick whatever you want, and always My Little Pony every
She's like,
time.
give me that My Little Pony. Well, to be fair, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is quality. And when I and my sister were young children, we had hordes and hordes of My Little Ponies.
I do give her credit though, because she always does pick the variant cover, so at least she does that well.
There you go. She's got good taste. But yeah, I think that, I don't know, I think stuff like this is less, I think a lot of people try to make it about, well, like these stores are diluting comics and they're giving in to like this vocal minority of people who want to ruin everything with their like lady feels or whatever. I think that instead they're saying to themselves, there is already an audience that's reading what we're putting up, but they're also reading books that are of a style that we don't have, and we want, the bottom line is we want more money from them. And obviously the way to get more money from them is to produce other books that they like. Like, our audience is not going to be, I don't know, like the aging white gentlemen that we've assumed are our audience for the last 20 years. Like, even if they are, these people have kids now, and like a lot of those children are not all boys who are also going to grow up to be like aging young white comic readers. So yeah, I think they've kind of acknowledged that there's a much broader demographic out there than people have believed in the past. And so instead of being like, well, we're changing everything that we're doing because we want to get those people, they're saying like, in addition to what we're already doing, there's things that we can do that are within our style, that are also picking up these people who are getting into comics because of Lumberjanes or being Puppy Cat, and making them want to read not only titles like Gotham Academy, but it's kind of a gateway drug into other stuff, like Batgirl, which then gets you into like 8,000 years of Batman mythos. So yeah, I don't know, it's exciting for me to see these kinds of titles as they're
often the best ones too. Like Gotham Academy is always critically acclaimed. Harley Quinn is always critically acclaimed. While things like, I don't know, what's been bad from DC lately? Like Green Lantern hasn't been the best lately. Sometimes Wonder Woman is ever since what's his name has been off of it, hasn't been Azzarello. Ever since he left, people have kind of fallen off that book. So yeah, I think when DC and Marvel, and when I always like the big thing, like people are just so like beholden to these characters for some fucking reason. Like, I wouldn't care if every character was made a girl. Like, who cares? Like, as long as we're getting good stories, like, make them all fucking frogs. I don't care. Like, and that's my thing with Secret Wars. Like, everyone's like in a hoopla of like, oh, like they're mashing all these characters together and blah 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 blah. Like, all right, well, as long as we get like cool new stories out of it, like, why do you care?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, that's the same thing with I hate calling her this, but Fem Thor or whatever you want to fucking call her, Thor. It's just who she is. Like, that's been one of the best Thor stories in the past 20 years. Like, I don't like how like give it a chance before you just like shit all over it. Like, give it, like, read it first, please. Like, don't just get mad because they made a character like a girl and then you say they're doing it for like feminist ideals or to attract readers or whatever. Like, even if they are, who cares? It's a good story. Like, it's good. And I would not be surprised if in 5 years in the movies that we had a female Thor. You know what I mean? In fact,
I would pay solid money to see Natalie Portman as Thor.
Oh, I guarantee.
Spoilers for anybody that hasn't read the book. That's who Thor is.
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Like, that would be such an interesting, like, Thor's movies have been shit so far. They're not shit, but they're not the best. They're not the greatest Marvel movies. I think he's a hard, tough character.
Yeah,
but
and they're filler movies.
Yeah, but imagine if the camera gave him cancer, and then having to struggle with that and having to decide, like, okay, well, every time I use this, I'm gonna get a new, like, I'm gonna essentially one step closer to my grave. So, like, how do I balance that this massive Superman power and be a hero by at the same time sacrificing myself, taking a piece of myself every time I choose to be heroic. I think awesome dynamic for a character to have, and it weakens Thor to a point in the film where they need to, because even in Age of Ultron, he could break that entire movie, like technically if he wanted to. They kind of had to like depower him at point, like, or send him away to do nothing for half the movie.
He's literally a god. Yeah. So a decision like making Jane Thor in the movies, or making anybody who's not Thor able to wield the hammer in the movies, takes it from being like filler movies, so like kind of okay, and it's like I don't regret paying money to go see that movie because it was like fun to watch, into an actual like really compelling movie experience. Like now I'm not here to watch Thor like blow stuff up for an hour and a half between MCU films. I'm here to like watch a really exciting Thor movie about somebody who's now interesting, and Chris Hemsworth is the most relatable part about the concept of Thor in the films because he's just so likable. Like he makes him such a likable guy. Like you could be friends with Thor even though he could totally like throw you into space, no problem. But like it's not interesting. I don't know. It's kind of like the struggle that DC has with Superman a lot of the time. Like you have a character who's so like overwhelmingly powerful. It's not interesting to have them be the most powerful person in the room literally all the time. Like that's why you get really exciting stories about Superman.
So what you're telling me is we need to bring Batman into Thor somehow.
Yeah. If we could just have Batman show up, and then they could fight, and there could be a lot of drama and like weird mechanized. I mean, I guess technically it's like Iron Man, but I don't know. In terms of like people, I'm probably a little more partial to Bruce Wayne than I am Tony Stark. But yeah, if we could just have a Batman versus Superman movie moment, except with Thor, and then also like Natalie Portman as Thor, if that could happen, I would probably give Marvel like $1,000 in ticket sales immediately. I would single-handedly see that movie so many times that it made it worth producing, even though there's no way I would ever make that much money.
I just thought about something. Are you reading the Thor comic?
No, I'm picking it up in trades.
Okay.
So I know what's going on, but I haven't read the whole thing yet.
Has everyone forgot about what Nick Fury whispered in his ear to make him drop the hammer? Because I feel like that has not been addressed yet. Is that ever going to be addressed?
I don't know.
I don't know either. It's going to be Jason Aaron's last book. Oh, by the way, this is what Nick Fury told Thor to make him drop the hammer. Last line. Sorry, sidetrack. I just thought about that right now.
No,
awesome.
I think I can look that up.
So what else are you reading?
That's a good question. I read like 5 things all today. Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps, issue 1, probably one of the most highly anticipated Secret Wars spin-off books. It lived up to the hype, super good. Everything about Secret Wars confuses me, but I don't care. I read it anyways.
See, I'm not confused now. I just dove in like head first, and I did what they recommended, because they actually, like, if you go back to the press conference, they actually laid it out really like well.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, if you like this book, then you're gonna like this book. If you like this book, then you're gonna like this book. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been like, oh, I'm just gonna pick up like creator books and like books that I liked or whatever, or I think I'll like. And so far, so good. Everything's been pretty solid. I don't understand. I get where it's going. I don't understand where it's going.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting eventually, and it's interesting now, but it's interesting in that way that I feel like I'm not quite smart enough to understand everything that's going on. And like on an emotional level, I'm okay with that because there's a lot going on, and I don't think I'm supposed to get it all yet. But
it's so Games of Thronesy.
Yeah, it's the kind of person who's like desperate to understand everything that's going on at all times. It's really infuriating me to not get it. So there are some titles that are a little better than others in terms of like you can pick this book up and you're going to read it and you're going to get it, and you don't have to know everything about whatever the God Emperor of Doom. I keep making that Dune reference in hopes that one day somebody will laugh at it. In hopes like you don't have to pick up like Ghost Racers. That was surprisingly good. If you like Death Race, which I do because I'm a sucker for like trashy, violent 80s movies. If you like Death Race, you'll like Ghost Racers, and you can pick it up, and you don't really have to understand everything else that's going on with Secret Wars. Like you're literally going to pick it up because you like Ghost Rider, or you love Robbie Reyes, and you're going to be like, this is a book about several people who turn into like demon-possessed fire entities driving around amazing motor vehicles. And you're going to be like, I'm about that concept, and I don't care about Victor Von Doom. And then there's a couple of other ones where it's like, yeah, actually, we would really like you to have read everything else about Secret Wars and maybe the last 20 issues of like Avengers. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I've read them and I still don't understand it, and I'm not feeling it, but I appreciate the effort. So yeah, I've spent a really horrifying amount of money on Secret Wars tie-ins. Not as much as I think. Like not as much as I think you or ever have, but there's some stuff that's super solid and really fun. Like I said, Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps is one of those where you pick it up and there's a little bit of reference to the stuff going on in the main title, but if you love Captain Marvel, then you're gonna love Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps. Same thing for Ghost Rider or Ghost Racers. If you liked Ghost Rider or if you've ever liked Ghost Rider, you're gonna like Ghost Racers. And then there's a few other ones like Secret War Journals that are like solid books, and it's not that they're bad, they're really good, but they're just confusing enough about the context that you're like, I don't want to read all of the time, like all of like the pre-Secret War stuff to understand this again, because I'm not that smart. I'm not smart enough for some of these books yet. And after Secret Wars, I'll go back and be like, these are great.
2 years worth of material at this point.
It's so much. Everything is so much. When I first decided that like this was the moment when I was going to get into my very first comic event, like as it was happening, I talked to our guy Tyler from the Screencast, and I was like, tell me what to read, like tell me everything to read. So he gives me a list of like 20 comics that are already out. Like, son, this hurts. I regret everything that I decided to do here. But I plowed through it, and there's a lot of good stuff going on with Marvel. I feel like it's less confusing to me than Convergence. But again, I'm very upfront, have not followed DC for a while. So I think any of the problems that I had with Convergence weren't really problems, but just like me not being knowledgeable enough to really get why DC had to go and like invalidate the one most heart-wrenching event of all time in all like DC canon for me.
So CK, we are running way over on time. I didn't realize it was running. We've already been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm gonna have to cut you off because I'm gonna run through my comics real fast, and then we gotta get out of here. So anything else that you read this week that you feel like you gotta talk about before I cut you off?
I'm gonna stop because I talked over you for like 1,000 minutes. So I'm good. That was everything I read, and they were all great. Spend money and buy them.
Comics are good. Okay, out this week from me. I'll go real fast. Okay, so I read Airboy, which is an Image book. It actually came out last week, and it was written by. Oh my God, I was just researching this, so I didn't sound like an idiot. No, I totally forgot it. It was written by James Robinson with art by Greg Hinkle. It's a strange book about James, basically his like fall from grace as a writer, and then him trying to regain that. And he does a bunch of drugs and alcohol and is just a horrible human being. And it's his like journey through that. It's really kind of cool. It's really kind of introspective, and it's really kind of awesome to see like a dying like artist. He's not dying physically, dying like mentally. Struggle with his art, and then put it on the page for you to see. It's really kind of cool. Not for kids. A lot of nudity, a lot of drug use, a lot of cursing. Really fantastic though. But if you're not like if you're like not into like kind of the hardcore like the introspective like dark comic books, probably not for you. Like if you like superheroes, probably not going to dig it very much. I also read Black Science. I'll be very quick. Black Science is amazing. Rick Remender is a genius. He sliders on acid. It's just such a good story. I described it as a monthly gut punch. I'm anxiously anticipating every month. It's so good. So check that out. Issue 15 came out this week. On to the Marvels and the DCs. So I picked up just because I'm a fan of the original series Marvel Zombies, and had no idea what I was getting into. Turns out Marvel Zombies #1 is a like uber like female empowerment story about a girl and a boy. Yeah, it was really surprising, about a girl and a boy who kind of get stuck beyond the wall. and have to kind of either go back through the horde of zombies back to home or go further out beyond the wall to see what's out there. And it's very much like she was raised to be like a demon killer. Her dad's a complete asshole and takes no excuses, no crying. Doesn't look at her as a female. Only looks at her as a person who that needs to do her job, and that's become a demon killer. So it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My favorite book this week, surprisingly to myself, mainly, was Constantine #1, by Doyle and Tywin the fourth. How do you say his last name? Tynan. Oh my gosh.
So.
Tynan.
You're more right.
James Tynan. I just loved it because, like, Constantine was Constantine from page 1. He was totally like omnisexual. He's just like into everything. Apparently, really into bears. That is really apparent from a whole like 2-page like little chat he has with the bartender. It's really fun, very adult, very magic, and you get in one issue you get a sense of who Constantine is, his powers, and his mindset and his take on the world. It's a perfect first issue, especially for that character. And I just love that they're like on the table, like, yeah, he fucks demons, he fucks girls, he fucks guys, like he just fucks anything. He's a complete asshole, so just get used to it now. And then we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. I also picked up Howard the Duck #1 in its second printing, mainly because I didn't get the first issue when it came out. It's by Chip Zdarsky, who does the art on Sex Criminals. It's super funny, super great book. It's been critically acclaimed since it came out. I believe it's on issue 3 right now. So if you're not reading Howard the Duck, you definitely need to read that. Last but not least, Batman 41 out this week. Excuse me, hold on. Jesus, talking too fast. Batman 41 out this week from the duo of Snyder and Capullo. If you haven't already, we have an interview with Scott Snyder up on the site now, done by Jonathan Reyes. Go check that out, where they talk about Batman. But basically, this is the debut issue of the Mechanized Bat and Jim Gordon as Batman. Spoiler alert. I should really start saying that before I give out the spoiler. But the thing that Scott does so well in this issue is he immediately addresses all of our issues with this comic that we were going to have. So, like, the first thing Jim Gordon says when he sees the Mechanized Bat suit, he's like, I am not walking around like a fucking giant bunny. And then he's like, can we change the color and make it darker? And then so, like, there's these different moments where, like, Snyder directly addresses our problem, like any problem we had with this new reboot or this new design or this new like take, he addresses in the comic book itself. So I think that like foresight of like kind of like shutting up the audience like in issue 1 was super smart of him to do, because it kind of like, and I saw this happen on Twitter as people read it, like you could see like the attitudes change. So like everyone's like, oh, new Batman comes out this week. Oh, and then as soon as people start reading, they're like, oh wait, I'm actually really into this new Batman. I can really dig it. So I once again another kind of masterful issue from Scott Snyder. It's gonna be really sad when those two guys leave that book, because I think it's gonna be really hard to follow. I'm really interested to see where that goes. Basically, what's happened is since Batman's dead, the city realizes, like the city government realizes they need to fill that void. So they create like a mechanized Batman, and they hire the best police officer, of course, Jim Gordon, to be Batman essentially. And then they basically like, train him and like soup him up and give him the suit or whatever. And it's really cool. It's an awesome idea. And then in true Snyder fashion, there's an awesome twist and a great cliffhanger. So please, everyone, go read Batman. It's amazing. All right. What else did I read this week? I know there was something else. Oh, that's probably enough. All right. Anyways, that's probably good for our show. CK, where can we find you?
You can find me on the internets on Twitter at CKCucco, CKCUCCO. And also sometimes I write words about comics that I love on geekswithwives.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, CK, for coming on. You are a blast to have on. You're so much smarter than the rest of us. I can listen to you talk about comics all day long.
That's so true.
It's music to my ears.
JK,
so make sure you guys are checking out geekswithwives.com every single day. Make sure you guys are going and checking out all of our wonderful podcasts. Make sure you guys go check out our guest tonight, Keith Brown, at his website, wagesofsin.net, and search him out on Facebook and give him a couple likes and say, Geeks with Wives sent you. Thank you so much. Again, please rate and review us on iTunes and all that good jazz. We appreciate all you guys so much. Check out our podcast, our other podcast, the Geeks on Screen, Press Any Key, the Video Games Podcast, Dungeons and Dragons Podcast by Corey. And then, make sure you guys are going to the site. Like I said, we just interviewed Scott Snyder. We have an interview with a very cool Marvel cosmic writer coming up that you guys aren't going to want to miss. So please stay tuned to Geeks with Wives. And that's pretty much it. CK, you got anything else?
No, that's all I got this week. Take a look at Geeks with Wives for all of our reviews. So if you didn't get enough of our opinions here, you'll get more than enough of our opinions on there. Tune in next week, Home Slice.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, for the abbreviated no news and comic session this week. But when you have someone on like Keith, who you just love hearing talk, it's hard to deviate from that. So once again, check out Keith Brown, keithbrown.net. Check out wagesofsin.net and give Keith some love. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week, and we'll catch you on the Geek side.